Pope Francis has said that gay people shouldn't be judged because of their sexual orientation and should be integrated into society, not marginalised. He was speaking to reporters during his flight home from Brazil. He restated the Church's position that homosexual acts were a sin, but that gay orientation wasn't. Our religious affairs correspondent Robert Pigott has the story.
When the Pope left Rio, 2 million turned out to see him off. With an extraordinary combination of charisma and humility, Pope Francis won the hearts of this sea of humanity. At 30,000 feet, a more intimate conversation. The 76-year-old Pope stood for almost an hour and a half, answering every question put to him by journalists. Asked about a homosexual lobby in the Vatican, Pope Francis said that although lobbying was bad, a person should not be judged on their sexual orientation. If a person is gay and seeks God, he said, and has goodwill, who am I to judge him? The Pope did say active homosexuality was sinful, but this was a markedly more conciliatory tone than his predecessors, and one that's delighted gay Catholics.
I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it's quite enough, because the Catholic Church is seen quite negatively, externally and internally. Catholics choose either, well, gay Catholics certainly choose either to leave the Catholic Church entirely or to move to another denomination which may be much more accepting and liberal.
Pope Francis's simple and direct manner has touched a chord among Roman Catholics. He's refused to live in the grand papal apartment, shuns elaborate robes, and is ferried round Rome in a Ford Focus. Among several acts of humility, he washed the feet of 2 women, including a Muslim, at a young offenders centre last Easter. A gesture some traditionalist Catholics worried might undermine the Church's teaching on women priests. It's not the role of the Pope to construct church law on the spur of the moment, and everything Pope Francis has said falls well short of changing official Catholic doctrine. But in the way he interprets the teaching of the Church, the Pope has enormous power. And clearly the radical change of style under Pope Francis has captured the imagination of Catholics in Britain, just as it has in Brazil.
The Pope's position is very powerful because he's so prominent, he can be easily seen, and because he leads the Church. And the way he's been leading the Church since he became Pope is by very personal example.
Back home this evening, Pope Francis placed a memento of his trip reverently on the altar of a church in Rome. He understands the power of gesture and is clearly ready to use it. Robert Pigott, BBC News.
The Iraqi government has accused al-Qaeda of being responsible for a series of coordinated car bombings around the country. At least 50 people were killed and 200 injured in attacks that targeted mainly Shia areas during the rush hour. The United Nations estimates that nearly 3,000 people have been killed in escalating violence since April this year. Our diplomatic correspondent Bridget Kendall assesses the causes behind the recent upsurge in sectarian conflict.